Doom. It's back again, a new sequel of the Dark Ages, and it takes the game in a very different direction, yet at its heart it is still very much Doom. Now, the Doom franchise made a massive impact on me all the way back in the 90s when it was first released. I was kind of there in, I didn't even know this was released, and I was there in one of these stores in the high street in the UK, a PC gaming store. Walked in and just happened to see Doom being demonstrated, and my mind was absolutely blown. This was the first time I'd seen a full-on 3D game working at this sort of level and this sort of speed. Fast forward to today, and we've moved away from physical media that we had back in the 90s, and we're getting instant access to massive ranges of games on services such as the PC Game Pass. And incidentally, that's exactly how I've been playing Doom the Dark Ages. And this video is sponsored by PC Game Pass. More about that in just a moment, but do check out the link in the video description to find out more. Now, I think it's fair to say that few series in gaming have reinvented themselves as often or as successfully as Doom. Now, to appreciate Doom the Dark Ages, one must really understand the whole Lineage and that it both respects and upends quite often. The original Doom, 1993, was a trailblazer of a game, and like I say, it was something that really did hit hard. At the time, I was 19 and I'd seen a lot of games over the years. I started gaming when I was 7. I'd seen everything from the early Spectrum games all the way up to this first full-on 3D corridor shooter, and it really was something else. Lightning fast, and it's something that really did define a genre. Its sequel, into Doom 2, come out the following year, doubled down on the carnage here, introducing the iconic super shotgun and then even more demons to blast away at. Doom then went a little quiet for a little while. Of course, it was always there in the background, but a decade later, Doom 3 took a really harder turn, a somewhat slower but far more atmospheric horror shooter, dripping with the shadows and tension. Nothing quite like the run-and-gun classics, but still compelling in its own right, and I know a lot of people at the time did really like it. And it's surprising to me to think about this. We're now 20 years past that point, a little over 20 years ago in fact, and what many people may not realise is just how revolutionary Doom 3 was in terms of graphics. This really pushed everything to the next level. It really was a massive step forward. It was also a pretty big change for the franchise itself. It was the first time that we saw a full-on story introduced into Doom, something we would see again and again in the follow-up games. The revival comes somewhat later, Doom 2016 resurrecting the entire franchise with a modern flair. And of course, fast forward to 2020, we get to Doom Eternal, which many people considered to push things further still. There was some great gunplay here, not to mention the glory kills, and some really nice environments. Now, Doom the Dark Age is yet another reinvention, and it's one that both honours and challenges what came before. By that, I mean it's something that's both familiar as well as something that's quite fresh as well. The twist here is that it puts you into the medieval period, well, an alternative medieval period. Think in many respects grimdark here. I'd say that is very close to the genre we're looking at. It's very clearly gothic, it has some elements of fantasy, but also a layer of sci-fi here as well. In other words, it's a game that trades the high-tech sci-fi trappings of Mars, space stations and modern Earth for a setting straight out of a dark fantasy epic. Instead of fluorescent laboratories and neon fire-belching factories, you get gothic fortresses, infernal dungeons and battlefields littered with the wreckage of siege engines. And the strange thing is that despite how obviously grim it is, despite how dark it is, it's strikingly beautiful. A very, very well realised game with some beautiful design aesthetics here and an amazing game engine to power it all. Now, what I really have liked about this whole setting, this whole environment, is that whilst yes, it is very much different to the Doom we've seen before, it's also not so different as to be entirely unrecognisable. After all, Doom has never exactly been a utopian sci-fi setting, has it? I can't think of a case in Doom where I'm walking down sterile, clinically clean corridors that have beautiful steel panels on the walls and lush carpets on the floor. Instead, what we've got is always something a little bit more on the grim side, and that's what we've got in spades right here. And this all actually works very, very well on PC, which is the platform I've been playing on. I've been playing on two different versions of the PC here, my high-end gaming PC with an RTX 4090 and a slightly older PC with an RTX 2080S, both of them running very well. And talking of PC, as I mentioned earlier, I am playing this on the PC Game Pass. Over time, I've come to heavily rely on the PC Game Pass and remained a subscriber for years. In my opinion, it's a terrific value for anyone playing on Windows. You're not only opening the door to a huge, constantly updated catalogue, you're also getting an impressive list of premium releases. Better yet, many headline games show up the moment they launch, so you can jump straight on brand new adventures without having to purchase every title one by one. Beyond those day one arrivals, the service hosts a vast back catalogue that's genuinely worth delving into. Right now, I'm pouring hours into Doom: The Dark Ages alongside Oblivion Remastered, both available in their full PC versions. That means you enjoy everything the platform brings, from granular graphic options and higher frame rates to immediate access to multiplayer where it's supported, all at no extra membership costs. And if your tastes run into online co-op or competitive modes, robust crossplay is here too, making it all simple to squad up with friends no matter which system they're on. For further information and to begin your own trial, follow the links you'll find in the description below. Now, with the pretty hefty Lineage, Doom has been a game that I've played and gone back to quite a lot, and I actively play Doom 1 quite frequently, often returning back to it even in this day and age here in 2025. In fact, the most recent I played it was back in January, shortly after Christmas. And it's with that in mind that another thing that really stood out to me with the Dark Ages, and that is Doom's surprising new change here, the invitation to go out and explore. The level design here is by far the most expansive and non-linear in the franchise's history. Missions are built as sprawling locales, they're war-torn cities or open-ended battlefields, even hub-like regions, always with multiple paths to tackle different objectives. And early on, you might be tasked with, say, securing 3 ritual sites in a village, and how you go about that in which order is largely up to you. And yet this is in stark contrast to the somewhat tightly channeled arenas that we found in Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and of course the originals. Doom: The Dark Ages often presents a somewhat broader environment, I'd say here, almost edging into open world territory in certain maps. You'll find yourself going back and forth to either uncover secrets or take on those objectives in your chosen order. And although this is fairly unique to the Dark Ages in terms of the Doom franchise, it does bring to mind the classic FPS design of the 90s games in some ways. Remember those keycards and the secret rooms? They here make a return, albeit with a medieval twist, like those hidden runes and breakable walls, and it's all layered onto a much larger environment than Doom has ever had in the past. So that's the environment, that's the graphics, that's the general game you'll find yourself set within. What about the big central focus, the gameplay and the combat? Well, gunplay in the Dark Ages remains ferocious and fluid, but it's somewhat of a dance that has undeniably changed. Perhaps the biggest gameplay addition here, and the one that most defines the feel of combat, is the Slayer's new shield. It's a complete break from 2016's Doom and Eternal's toolkit. The grenades are gone, as is the flaming shoulder cannon, and in their place you get a hefty shield that functions as both a protector as well as a weapon. The shield isn't just for blocking, in fact you're encouraged to use it aggressively. With a tap, you can parry incoming attacks, staggering your foes. You can then throw and use it literally as a weapon to hurl it directly into them. And this will smash the lesser demons to bits or otherwise stun the larger demons. You can of course parry as well, which will usually initiate some pretty significant damage against the enemies. Usually this parry has to be done in response to an incoming attack that is colour-coded, usually colour-coded green. Parry those green attacks at the right moment and you'll inflict this extra damage upon them. Melee combat itself has also been overhauled to kind of synergize with the shield. Glory kills, the series' signature gruesome finishers, they're still present, but they've been toned down somewhat. You'll see fewer unique animations than what we had in Eternal, a sacrifice that keeps the gameplay flow quick, and this really is a rapid combat experience here. In place of those one-hit chainsaws or crucible swords, the Dark Ages equips you with a variety of close-up methods to absolutely eviscerate the legions of hell. The Slayer's very fists now carry limited but devastating power. You can execute brutal melee combos, and these are curiously governed by recharging ammo for your punches, a somewhat unusual design decision. Perhaps you can only punch so many times before needing it to recharge, or going picking up a power-up to recharge it for you. Yet, this all combines together to kind of have a layering effect for the combat. What I found myself doing was switching out weapons for the ranged attacks, rushing in to do a few power melee attacks, and then suddenly doing some parries when you see these green attacks, and finally going in to do the finishers. In other words, I never found myself doing a singular attack for any prolonged period of time. I'd never, for example, be standing around using the plasma attacks constantly, or just running around unendingly with the double-barreled shotgun, or the so-called super shotgun here. For me, I really did find combat a layered experience, a mix of switching between melee, parrying, using your shields, as well as, of course, using these really gorgeous, these brilliant weapons. They have, they're very kinetic, all of them very heavy, very impactful, very weighty, and I think they've pretty much got some of the best weapons in any FPS games. They all really, I don't have any favourite here, they all really do have a brilliant effect. They all do the job, let's put it that way. Now, this is a system that I have enjoyed. It's a type of combat that I'm really liking playing. Of course, not everyone is going to agree with that, and I know some people out there do have a slightly different take, and that's what everyone's opinion is equally valid. But that said, from what I can tell, the general consensus from the community is that Doom the Dark Ages has been very well received indeed. Right, so here's a quick rundown, just so you know why you're cleaving demons in a ruined keep instead of a Mars lab. So this is a bit of a focus on the story. Doom of the Dark Ages then trades Mars's fluorescent corridors for crumbling ramparts and skies streaked with hellfire. The game is set in a techno-medieval stronghold which is besieged on 3 different fronts. First, we have the upstart demon prince who's convinced the fabled Heart of the Argent will put a crown on his horns. Circling above him are the Makers. These are gleaming, almost angelic arbiters who promise salvation whilst secretly bottling mortal souls to keep their own engines purring. And in the shadows lingers a dark witch who happily lets the other 2 trade body blows while she chisels away at a darker, older power. You stand at the centre of this triangle, a battered Night Sentinel recruit with a Maker tether welded to your spine. This keeps you under control and on the leash. Now, long-term fans of the series will immediately recognise what's going on here. This is the origin of the Slayer himself. It doesn't take long, one snap the leash and a newly forged shield saw, to turn that pawn into a wrecking ball, and the campaign really charges forward from there. The Night Sentinels, led by the stoic King Novik, offer refuge for mission hubs, but make no mistake, it's you who are the spearhead here. Now, as with 2016's reboot and Eternal, the story is entirely inseparable from the shooting. That means resources tighten whenever the warring factions increase their grip, and that pushes you into that familiar Doom dance of aggression, ammo drops and glory kills. Elsewhere in the game, you'll also get to, for a while at least, pilot a massive big mech. You'll also get the chance to ride a cyber dragon. These are interesting diversions and are a welcome change of pace to all the shooting you're otherwise going to be seeing. So yeah, the story is certainly integrated pretty tightly into the overall game, and this acts quite nicely as an origin story. The final takeaway for me is that Doom of the Dark Ages is both a homage to the other games as well as an experiment of where to go next, and for me it's something that does work very well. If you want to try out for yourself, it is available on PC Game Pass, and again, my thanks to PC Game Pass for sponsoring this video. There is a link in the video description where you can find out everything you need to know. My thanks to you for watching this video all the way through. Do take care, and I'll catch you next time.